There's something strange in your neighborhood. Who are you gonna call? Ghost fighting treasure hunters. Will that reference get me in trouble with YouTube? I guess we'll see. Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters. This is a cooperative game which in a certain sense feels like Pandemic for children or Pandemic for families, and also playable with children, which are slightly different things. Many games are marketed these days as family games, and they really are for children, and the parents suffer sitting at the table playing them with the children. We love our children, so we'll still do it, but what if we can have actual family games that children and adults play together and they both have fun playing it? Isn't that better? Yes, it is. That's the correct answer. Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters is a game of this kind. I purchased for Christmas for my daughters and for myself, and I played it together with them. My daughters are 5 and 7. We played it together, and the three of us had a really good time. I can tell already this is a good family game. Even the 5-year-old, yes, even the 5-year-old played the game, could understand the rules, and could understand the strategies. That is, she was actually playing the game. We were all engaged. Really good experience. I guess right there you have most of my conclusions for this video. But before we get there, or say after we got there, and before we get there again, let me tell a little bit about the game and how it works. In this game, a player controls Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters, these brave kids that will enter this haunted mansion looking for jewels. They collect the jewels that they place in these adorable backpacks. In this sense, these game components reminded me of Mallrats in Space, which you also have figurines that put tokens in their backpacks. So they'll move around the house, collect the treasure, collect the jewels, and try to get them out. The game can be played in different variants, different levels of difficulty. One, for example, things that you can do to add to the difficulty of the game is to take into account the numbers that are printed on the back of the jewels. In this case, the jewels need to be taken out of the mansion in order from lowest to highest. So you go to a room, look at the number, and you're looking for the lowest number, etc., etc. In the basic version, you simply go, collect them, and take them out. Now, what happens here is that at the beginning of each turn, the active player rolls the movement die. As you can see, there are numbers, and all numbers but the 6 also have a ghost next to it. The number that you roll is the number of spaces up to which your treasure hunter will be able to move. You can move less than what you rolled, but if you roll a 1, well, then you're still stuck with that. You don't have any choice. In other cases, I can move up to 4. So each space in the hallway counts as 1, each room counts as 1. There are also these ghosts on the board, and moving into and through rooms with ghosts is not a problem. There isn't any specific rule. However, if you end your move in an area with a ghost, you can choose to fight the ghost, in which case you roll one of these 2 dice. They are the same. If you roll a ghost, you simply remove a ghost that is in the room with you. If you roll a haunt, we'll talk about that one, or a blank, nothing happens. So you move. You can fight a monster, and if you rolled anything but 6, that is, you rolled a number with a ghost printed on the die, you also need to draw a card from this deck and to add a ghost to the room indicated here. For example, here, J, the room number J, then I take a ghost from the general supply and I add it here. And suppose then next turn I roll a number with a ghost again, and I need to add 1 to the toilet. Trust me, kids love this card. They find it hilarious, and that's just the way it is. That's the way kids function. So I find that very appropriate. I don't know if appropriate in a general sense, but kids love it. This is a game for kids, so why not? There are also cards with other effects. For example, this card, which is optional, you don't have to use it. It makes the game more challenging. It means that you will draw 2 cards that ghosts, and then you will shuffle the deck. Other cards, again, we have more locations. There's also another type of card, again, optional, but we use it all the time. See, there's a blue door here. That means that all the rooms all the doors, all the blue doors on the board are now locked. And so you can still move around, but you have to move through other entrances. This adds to the difficulty of the game. I'm here, for example, I want to get in there. Now the blue door is locked, so I have to go to another path or adjust my strategy and do different things. So again, you can choose to fight a common ghost, and if you roll the corresponding result, the ghost is eliminated. As you add ghosts to the board, it may happen that there will be 3 of them in a room, in which case you remove them and they combine into a super mega monster, into a haunt. Pretty impressive game piece, I have to say, for a kid's game. The haunt is like a super monster. If you're carrying a jewel and you are in a room with a haunt, you're stuck, you cannot move. Also, a haunt can only be defeated by at least 2 treasure hunters working together. That means that if you do have a treasure and you're stuck in a room with a haunt, you cannot move until somebody comes to help you. It's a little annoying because that means that in that case you're effectively wasting your turn, you cannot get to do anything, but it's not an occurrence that should happen all that often. At least plan ahead, know that that's a possibility, so try to prevent that from happening. And even if it happens, it's not like you're stuck for half an hour or so. The game itself lasts about half an hour. Now, when you have multiple treasure hunters in the same room with the haunt, they will roll again the combat dice, they will roll 2, and if at least one of the results is a haunt result, then you remove the haunt. So that is the difficulty. It takes 2 detectives, 2 treasure hunters to defeat a haunt, and the haunt will block hunters with jewels. This is pretty much the general idea. When it is your turn, roll the die, move, possibly fight against the enemy, try to get the jewels out of the mansion, add new ghosts, possibly convert 3 ghosts into a pandemic, into an epidemic, no, I mean into a haunt, because this is similar to the concept of epidemics in Pandemic. Continue like this until either all jewels have been brought outside, have been collected and brought outside of the house by the treasure hunters, and if that happens, the players win the game, or if all 6 haunts are on the board, then the players lose the game. So you have to keep the haunts at bay. There's also the rare possibility, remember, since a haunt pins down a player, pretty much, the player cannot move, the player with the jewel cannot move, I guess there is a rare chance that each player will be stuck with a jewel with a haunt in a different room, in which case they cannot go and help each other, and then they're stuck and they lose the game. I don't see that happening very often. It's much more likely they will lose the game because 6 haunts are there, but it's just a possibility that is contemplated in the rules. This is the general idea. This is how the game works. As you can see, Pandemic for kids with some mechanics that are familiar to kids, like rolling for movement or random movement. Yes, Candyland, they know it from there. But this is a good transition from random movement in games to games that make sense. Because yes, there's a random element, but at least it is up to which. If I am here, I don't have to roll exactly a 2 to get in there. I don't have to do those embarrassing things that I'm moving back and forth around the space that I want to get to until I get the exact number. Is up to, so I can choose not to spend my entire movement. Again, a 1 is a 1 is a 1, and it's annoying, but other than that, it's a semi-random movement. The kids recognize, but then they also start strategizing, and they start developing ways of thinking about semi-random. So it's a good transition again from random movement to games that make sense. And actually, I have to say, there were even moments where I was here, and that was the last jewel. Getting there, if I got there, I would have won the game. And I rolled a 1, and it was very exciting. People were jumping around the table. literally, remember, I was playing with kids. They were literally jumping, all excited, and doing the little shrieks of excitement and happiness. And when we did one, by the way, with 5 hunts on the board, that was a super exciting moment. Big cheers. The kids really got excited. Actually, that is an interesting thing, that the game starts pretty relaxed. Okay, there are 2 ghosts, I just removed one. Oh, there's a ghost there. Ping, I removed it. Yes, 2 ghosts there, 2 ghosts there, but who cares? Let's just prioritize and go after the jewels. So, players go after the jewels, and maybe some players, one player goes out and defeats a ghost here and there. And then, almost all of a sudden, things reach a critical mass, almost subliminal, almost, well, without you noticing, almost stealthily. Everything seemed pretty okay, and we got most of the jewels, and all of a sudden, oh wait, we neglected those 2 ghosts there. Then now we're a hunt, that's fine. Oops, how come there's a hunt there? Wait a second, what's a hunt doing there? All of a sudden, these ghosts that didn't seem to have too much concentration, they start turning into haunts. That is, when you're looking at the jewels and planning around the jewels, and yes, maybe neglecting the ghosts a little bit, it's easy to underestimate how quickly a bunch of rooms with 2 ghosts can turn into an epidemic of haunts. And that, of course, means that somewhat gameplay doesn't have a sort of like, you know, linear progression. It's more like it starts slow and then all of a sudden it ramps up real quick and things start moving fast and things get exciting and kids get excited and the jumping around the table starts, which is good, So I found this game to be very engaging to play with kids. I do not know that I will play with adults only. When I'm with adults, probably if I feel like playing a cooperative game of this type, which is about moving around and preventing concentration of bad stuff on the board, I'll still play Pandemic. But for kids that are too young to play Pandemic, like my 5-year-old, or the 7-year-old can play Pandemic totally, but the 5-year-old cannot, and she really enjoyed this game. Or if I'm playing with a neighbor, with kids from my children's classrooms, with other kids that are not as trained into gaming like mine are, and so they may need games that are a little simpler. This is very accessible. The theme is cute, the cute is fun, kids like that idea. The components are really cute. These ghosts are so adorable. Frankly, if anything, it's hard for me to see them as threatening. I like to hang out with these kids, with these dead kids. They look fun. Yay! They're also kind of slippery. Yay, I'm a dead kid and I'm fun. They're really cute, nice components. The same for the ghost hunters. So we got ghost hunters of both genders, and that is always a plus, very important. So the components look very good. Almost just like a toy set. This could be fun. On top of that, on top of the fact that the components are such a quality that you could use them as a toy set, there is a good game in here. It's very simple. If you have Pandemic and you're not planning to play with children, this is probably a game that you do not need. But if you have a family, or if you play with children in any case, this is a really good game. It's a good family game. One that if you play with your children, you will not be bored. Both because it's fun to see your kids getting excited, and because the game itself, while not super deep and again mainly geared toward children, is one that has enough decisions, has enough interesting moments in it that an adult will not be bored when playing it. Ghost Fightin Treasure Hunters, a present I gave to my daughters for Christmas, and I'm glad that they did, because actually not only was I happy that they had fun playing it, but I myself had fun playing it with them. So overall, for a family game, this is a really, really good family game.